Hello, 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 and welcome everybody. Okay, let me just answer that. That's Sister. She's driving to a doctor's appointment. Hang on, give me a sec. Thank you. Hey, Mitch. And Nana, good morning, good morning, good morning. Buckle up, you guys. Buckle up. Nana says I even have my popcorn ready. Okay, Mitch is saying good morning, everyone. Okay, I gotta put my phone here on mute. But Sister is here and listening, so if we need help, we can get help. Vera Ray says, "Hi, Miss Willow. My neighbor passed away, so I may have to catch part of replay. I am so sorry to hear that, Vera Ray. My thoughts and prayers are with you all and the family." CK Mitch, I don't know why you thought you weren't a mod anymore. You are a mod. You've always been a mod. I'd never get rid of you. Okay, so buckle up, you guys. It's going to be a ride. I've got a couple of different things that have come out. I want to go through the latest order first because I think it's very, very important to get through this before I bring out the information that you guys are all waiting to hear, because we may have some people come in here claiming that fake news, all this stuff, the prosecutions kept things from the defense, all this stuff. So I'm going to get through this. It's like 12 pages, but I'm just going to go through the highlighted parts that I highlighted. It should take less than 5 minutes to get through this, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. There's some shocking stuff here that I didn't think anything else could shock me. But once you start seeing it, you're going to get the full picture. Now, there's a few things that are going to come out after we get through this order that you're going to hear that I can now say, I told you so. I told you so. Good morning, Carrie. Good morning. Good morning. The Lauren Dumelos. Yes, we can do that. Good morning, stay-at-home mom detective. Let me just write that down because you guys know my memory. Okay, so I wrote the Lauren down so I remember come the end of this because we got a lot to go through. Excuse my cold, you guys. I'm going through allergy season like hell. My eyes are burning and everything. But anyway, once we get through this, I will link both informations where I'm getting information and the interview and everything with Kaylee's dad. I will link it in the description once the video is done. So you guys can go and watch the full thing because there's a lot. Like, my heart goes out to Kaylee's dad and all the victims, surviving victims. But he's been the most vocal. And he gives us more hints too. So let me get through this first. I'm going to pull it up. We're going to skim through this first. Let me get the audio on. Let's just do this one first. I guess I can get rid of this after because I didn't share the video here, the audio here. There's no audio on this one, but the next one I'm going to have to show you the audio. So, Vera Ray, hello and good morning. Thank you, Nana and Willow. Some neighbors are just like family, you know, prayers needed and accepted. Absolutely. Good morning. I love when you say, I told you. Yep. Okay, so like you guys can go back to some of my reads on this case. You'll find them all under the video tab from 2 years ago. Okay, all my newer stuff now is going to be under the videos tab, but all my live stuff and that is under the live tab. A lot of my reads on this case, I think almost all of them are going to be under the live tab because I did that before I switched over to doing it the way I'm doing it now. So if just search on my page for Bryan Kohberger and you will find all the videos. Some are, most of them are going to be under the live tab from the very beginning. From the very beginning when I said that he came before we even knew who Bryan Kohberger was. I did a read and so much came out. It came out that he came in through the back door, the sliding door, before anything ever came out. Like, this was like the beginning of December 6th or December 9th. I said that he went upstairs first. I also said Kaylee was the target. I said that Xana and Ethan were second. There was so much that I brought out. I described who the perpetrator is going to be, not his name, but that he was some kind of like teacher or gave, stuff like that. That all came out the beginning of December before we ever heard of Bryan Kohberger's name, ever. So it's interesting now as things are coming out, things are starting to be unsealed, and we are getting a lot more information. So without further ado, let's jump into this. I know you guys are waiting. I'm going to show you it all. Okay, so this is the order. This is the order that on April 9th, when Ann Taylor was fighting to have the DP taken off the table. She was saying, and she has been saying, we had a lot of the Bryan Kohberger supporters going, the prosecution's keeping stuff. And all this stuff, right? This just goes to show, and I said it's smoke and mirrors, you guys. It's she as much as she complained about the prosecution trying this in the media, she was doing the same thing. She was trying to get out false information in the media herself, right? So, hi, Annie, a ruler from Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I love that. Anyway, okay, let's jump into it. So this is the order on the defendant's motion to strike the death penalty and adopt other necessary procedures. She wanted sanctions. She wanted the whole 9 yards, okay? So I will read the introduction, and then we're just going to go through the pieces that I have highlighted because this is a long document. So the defendant contends that the discovery produced by the state in this case has been oh, don't start, Willow. Say your words. Voluminous and unorganized, thus rendering him unable to meaningfully review and investigate the state's evidence in time for trial. In other words, she wants to prolong it again. I told you guys before she took on another death penalty case, which you couldn't even cover the case that you were doing, and you take on a second high profile case. The judge brings that up, and I've highlighted it. So we will hear that. Asserting his due process rights have been violated, defendant seeks sanctions in the form of striking the death penalty and imposing certain organizational requirements upon the state to aid the defendant's review of discovery. In other words, she wanted the prosecution to sort this case and do this case and get it ready for her. Why? Because she's overworked, because she took on a second case. The judge is going to say it. You're going to see it. The state's response that it has complied with all discovery obligations, including Brady, and there is no basis for sanctions or other measures. Oral argument on the motion was held on April 9th. I did cover that one. Hello, Rose. Love you. Under which time the court took the matter under advisement because the defendant has failed to show discovery violations or due process violations by the state, sanctions are not warranted. The court further declines to require the state to provide further organizational assistance to the defendant. They've already done so much organization for the defense that they didn't have to do. Okay? And we're going to hear some things that Ann Taylor said right from day one. Be careful what you ask for, Anne, because that is what you are going to get. Let's see what happened. I'm going to scroll through this, so if you guys do want to read through later on, you can read the whole document, but I want to get to the meat and potatoes, you guys, so I'm trying to get through this as quickly as possible. Okay, so this is just more of them fighting about how much terabytes and photographs and video clips and everything that they had to go through and how they can't do it and how the prosecution just gave them a big dump of stuff. Okay, the state notes that since the case began over 2 years ago, let's make this bigger, help my eyes that are itchy as hell because of my allergies. The state notes that since this case began over 2 years ago, it has continuously turned over to the defendant all the information it received from the various investigating agencies in the same format as the information was received by the state. Here we go. This was done at the defendant's request, who specifically asked that the state produce everything the state had from the get-go. Defendant also issued 400 itemized requests for discovery in this case. Like, if you would have just had some faith in the prosecution, knowing that they're under obligations and that they could be sanctioned not if they didn't give you stuff, instead of doing these 400 itemized requests, and just stuck to main things that you really thought you didn't get, then you would have had time to go through this case. But anyway, thus, the state contends it is on the same playing field as the defendant regarding discovery. In addition, okay, so here we go. It's already starting. The disorganized evidence, it is a Brady. My retired DDA friend got Brady for not saying where on the video there was exculpatory evidence. San Jose, California, fact, demoted from first. No. Annie, just because Ann Taylor said that she got disorganized evidence, it's a lie. She's lying. Let's get through this, and you will see by the end of this that it's a lie. Even if it's disorganized, She specifically said, right here, this was done at the defendant's request, who specifically asked that the state produce everything the state had from the get-go. Okay? Let's continue this before you start attacking this, because it's proved here that not only did the state go above and beyond and helped organize some stuff that they didn't have to do, it still wasn't good enough for Anne. She wanted the prosecution to do her case for her. But let's continue. The state points out that on September 4th, 2024, at approximately the same time as its discovery deadline, it provided the defendant with a 320-page index identifying the location of requested discovery, a description of the evidence, and the date discovered. In addition, all of the evidence received from the FBI, which comprises the majority, was provided to the defendant with a searchable index. In sum, the state asserts it has provided everything required by ICR 16A and Brady, and disputes that it is engaged in any discovery violations. Okay, defendant has not established a discovery violation, thus sanctions are not warranted. The defendant, as he appears to have acknowledged at the hearing, cannot establish these elements because he has not identified any withheld evidence that is exculpatory or impeaching. Okay, so there is nothing that the defense has said that they can prove has not been given to them. Okay, further, he has not identified any obligation under ICR 16 that the state has violated. His quibble, rather, is with the method in which the state has produced discovery, arguing it's effectively a data dump that prevents him from meaningfully review the discovery. There are, however, several problems with this defendant's position. Okay, so the position that you just mentioned, Annie. Okay, and here it goes here. You can read through this after. Okay. Well, the Supreme Court held in Brady that the government may not properly conceal exculpatory evidence from a defendant. It does not place any burden upon the government to conduct a defendant's investigation or assist in the presentation of the defense's case. Further, voluminous discovery alone is not a basis for finding concealment under Brady. I can't speak today. Okay? Like I said, you can read through it all. I'm not hiding anything. The discovery was produced to the defendant as the defendant specifically requested. Rather, okay, so let's read this. Defendant on equal footing regarding discovery reviewed also serves the important purpose of protecting against claims of missing or manipulated documents if the states put them in a different format or organization, or otherwise conveys them to the defendant in a different manner than what they received it. While the state acknowledges that much of the discovery is completely irrelevant, including some of the surveillance videos and data from numerous phones, computers, and other devices, it did not produce it for the purpose of paddling the file or otherwise attempting in bad faith to hide Brady information in a haystack. Rather, the defendant asked for everything, and everything is what he received. Okay? Ann Taylor made it very clear. I don't care if you don't think it's inculpatory. I don't care. I want everything. And that's what she got. Okay? Usually, generally, the prosecution will go through everything it receives, and if there's nothing there of inculpatory or exculpatory, if there's nothing there, they don't send it to the defense. If they let the defense know they've got it, and if they want to go through it themselves, they can send it. Usually they don't, because it's just a waste of everybody's time. But Ann Taylor, when the prosecution brought that up, Ann Taylor specifically said, I don't care. I want everything. And everything is what she got. The defendant cannot demand everything under the sun and then complain about the weight of the planets. Okay? Moreover, the defendant has not produced any evidence showing that the state has hidden Brady material or made his access to discovery utterly erroneous. Okay? The state did not provide all the discovery in a searchable format as it was received from the state in such a format. It provided a 320-page index and gave that to the defense, identifying the specific location of evidence produced in response to the defendant's 400 individual discovery requests, a description of the evidence, and the date discovered. In addition, the discovery received from the FBI, which compromised the majority, was provided to the defendant in a searchable format. Okay? So just because Ann Taylor says something doesn't mean it's true. Patty Ward, thank you so much. I appreciate that. He has not sought additional resources, okay? So in addition to the defendant's complaints of being unable to meaningfully review the discovery ring hollow, the defendant has been receiving discovery in the same manner for over 2 years. In that time, he has not once sought a remedy from this court to regulate discovery, such as requiring the state to provide discovery in a different format. Annie, this can't be any more clear than what it is. It can't be any more clear. They gave a 320-page index identifying the specific location of evidence produced in response to the defendant's 400 individual discovery requests. It included a description of the evidence and the date discovered. Okay? You can't get any more than that. What do you want the prosecution to do? Go over there and do it for her? Come on now. Okay. He has not sought additional resources under ICR 12.2. So a year and a half ago, when she started seeing the volume of this, she didn't ask for more help. What did she do? She took on another death penalty case. And that's why she can't get through everything in this case, because she's doing 2 high-profile cases at the same time. She never should have taken on that second case if she was already feeling she was falling behind in this one. So you can't ask for the stars and then shoot the moon, okay? So instead of asking for help, she just continued to go on her merry way and this and that. And you know what? I'm going to use an excuse to keep pushing this trial further and further out. Anyway, she didn't ask to hire additional staff to review discovery or obtain litigation document control software to help organize and sort the evidence. Bryan Kohberger, the lead counsel, insisted that she be allowed to take on a second high-profile capital case despite the voluminous discovery in this case. Further, at oral argument, lead counsel indicated that her practice is to personally review all the discovery herself, rather than rely on associates and staff to review materials to cut through the less relevant information and point to what materials need review by lead counsel. These actions are not indicative of an overburdened defense team. So if you're overburdened, you wouldn't be taking on another case. But now you're trying to claim that you're overburdened. You're overburdened because you took on that second case. You can't do that. You can't demand that you want this other case and then use that as reasons why you can't go through all this evidence. You should have done that instead of taking on a second case. Right? In fact, it is evident the defendant has been able to capably navigate the discovery given his more than robust motion practice, the scope and breadth of the experts retained, and the disclosures filed. She's saying she can't get through all this. It's too voluminous, but you've got through enough that you could make 400 requests. Come on. You're biting yourself right in the toe right there. Saying you can't do it, but then proving you can because you filed all these motions. Here, however, the defendant has not established a discovery violation under Brady or ICR 16. In the first place, he has not shown the state has attempted to conceal specific materials within the discovery, and he has not shown discovery to be unduly burdensome to the point where he is unable to examine the items that are material and of evidentiary value. Consequently, there is no basis for any sanction, let alone striking the death penalty. The court declines to impose organizational requirements on the state. The court finds neither is warranted. And it goes through some ways here that sometimes the prosecution will help out the defense. Like if they don't have a good team, if they can't afford a good lawyer, if they're doing it on their own, they give them a little bit more leeway and help them out a bit more. But when they have a huge team like Bryan Kohberger does, no. You asked for everything, you wanted everything, and you wanted everything the way that we got it, and that's what we gave you. Okay? The court further pointed out that ordering the government to identify or label already produced material as covered by Brady and by omission identify non-Brady material only invites future disputes as to whether the government did an adequate job of identifying such material or characterized the material consistent with the defendant's view of it. Okay? So do you remember in the hearing when she said, "You can be the one to make this change"? And Judge Hippler just looked at her like as if she had three heads. It's like, what? You're trying to, she was trying to boast him on his ego, boost his ego. You can be the one to make this change. And he just said, I ain't doing that. It only invites future disputes as to whether the government did an adequate job, and you'd only use it against the government anyway. And it's not, it's not viable in this instance. There's no need for it. The government's already gone above what they had to do. Annie, you're only going to see that come trial. Okay? That's when you're going to see it all. You ain't going to see it in any court documents, especially when everything has been sealed and we're only now starting to get things released. We are not going to see the videos of the truth, not minutes missing, etc. There's no minutes missing. We've already gone through that. Like I said, be careful what you believe. I think a lot of people are going to be very shocked when this trial goes through. While the defendant is currently incarcerated, he has a robust defense team and has not faced time constraints given his speedy trial waiver, with this case well over 2 years old. Not infrequently, what constitutes Brady material is fairly debatable. Where the circumstances do not, as they do not here, cry out for a departure from the general rule, the court will not invite future disputes. In other words, I'm not going to be the judge that sets a new rule or a new precedent. I ain't doing it. We are going by the law and the laws that have been set. Additionally, the state has taken reasonable steps to aid the defendant in navigating the discovery, including 1. Providing a detailed index of all the discovery produced, identifying the location, a description of the evidence, and the date discovered. 2. Providing the FBI materials with searchable index, working with counsel to resolve access problems to documents, and 4. Representing that the surveillance videos and other than those highlighted by the state do not contain any relevant footage, and that the devices, phones, and other digital data of the victims and others do not show any connection between the defendant and the victims. Collectively, this provides the defendant reasonable means to willingly review the discovery requested. So in the footnote here, it says, for capital cases in Idaho, a defendant who has a court-appointed counsel must have a lead and a second chair attorney. Here, the defendant has always employed at least 3 attorneys, has employed investigators and mitigation specialists and retained dozens of experts. How can you hire dozens of experts if you haven't gone through the materials to see what kind of experts you need? Anne, you lied. You lied, Anne. How are you hiring investigators and dozens of experts? What experts have you hired, and what are those experts going to talk about if you haven't been able to go through the materials to know what experts are going to be needed? And the judge points out, you can't claim you haven't been able to go through this evidence, but you're filing all these motions regarding the evidence and retain dozens of experts and investigators and mitigation specialists, but you haven't had time to go through it. Anne says, I hear you. I just want to see it. I just said, you're not going to see it all until court. But this gives you a rundown. And the things that Ann Taylor is fighting the hardest about are the most damning evidence, or she wouldn't be fighting so hard about it. She knows her client's goose is cooked. Anyway, we will get into it. We'll get into the proof. Order. Based on the foregoing, defendant's motion to strike the death penalty and adopt other necessary procedures due to the state's disclosure violations is denied. And you're not dealing with Judge John Judge. He's like, okay, we'll wait. Yes, you know, okay. You're dealing with a judge who knows his stuff. And she can't get one over on this judge. She has tried. First it was this visual snow. How come we never hear about that anymore? That didn't work. Then he was out at this park looking at the stars. That didn't work because that night there was ice fog, rain, and cloudy, and the park was closed. That didn't work. So now she's got, well, he was out driving around at certain places 23 times and many times that night in Moscow, but he was doing something else that we're not ready to disclose yet. That didn't work. Then it was, now he's got this ASD. That didn't work. I wonder what's going to be next. What is next? That he has, 2 legs and 2 arms that aren't real? I don't know what she's going to come out with next to try and get this death penalty off the table. But the things that she's coming out with, and this having to go back into 1800s law, remember that like 300 and something page motion? How can you do 300 and something page motions and then claim you don't have time to go through the discovery? You're going back into 1800s law and everything else, like craziness. Waste of time. Anyway, let's get into the meat and potatoes now. Hang on a sec. My throat is getting sore. Good morning, Alicia. Good morning, Lady D. Okay. Let me get this off. I gotta get back to chat. How am I doing that? What's this? Okay, here we go. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Okay, so I want to keep this one up because it's going to be... Okay, so this one here, you guys, we're not going to watch it in full, but there is an interview with Kaylee's dad. Let me get it up on screen. We are only going to watch certain parts of this. We are only going to watch certain parts of it because I don't want to get a strike. I will be linking this in the let's just see here. If you're going to think you see everything, before the trial, you're wrong. Like, go back 2 years ago when I said, when the probable cause affidavit came out, and I said, you guys, do you think that's all they have? If that's what you think, you know nothing about the law. Okay? I worked in criminal law for over 30 years. That's why I was able to pick out certain things that were being said and then say, this is what I think is going to be said. And then later down the line, it came out. So, anyway, let's get through this because this is very interesting. Um, Ashley nailed this right at the beginning, but we are going to go through different timestamps in this video of things that are very important. Like I said, I will link this whole video in the description below. You can go and see it and watch it for yourself. But there's some certain points in here I want to point out to you guys. And we're going to, once Steve says a couple things here, we are going to go to that document that he talks about. Okay? So let's go. We're going to listen to this right now. And I will be pausing it and jumping to other points just so you guys get the main points of this. And here we go.
Elvis's dad, and he has told me some things I never heard before. For instance, he's just told me that his daughter was
Put a 1 in the chat, you guys, if you can hear that. I want to make sure you guys can hear it. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can all hear it. Could you guys hear it? Hello. 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 Anybody? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. Okay, so let's go.
beaten very badly by this killer, struck in the head, in the face multiple times. Her nose was broken. And the blows were so severe that Steve says that his daughter could easily have died from the blows to her face, let alone the knife wounds that she sustained from this knife-wielding, sadistic killer. That's something I never knew before. Documents also dropping in the case telling us that the girls, Bethany, Dylan, Maddie, and Kaylee, all got together at 2 o'clock in the morning upstairs in Kaylee's room. They were all having sort of a girl chat, and they were contemplating going out again, leaving the house and going out back to the food truck, just having another secondary night out at 2 a.m. And I just think about what could have happened if only. Maybe they would have been back before 4 a.m. when the murder struck. Maybe not, but it's...
So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that and that alone? Remember when I said at the beginning, I think that Kaylee was the target? To now know that she was beaten so bad. I can slow it down a little bit, you guys. Okay, I slowed it down a little bit. Do you want me to play it again? Let me know in the chat if you want me to play it again, slow down just a little bit. We're going to hear it again anyway, so... But I said at the beginning that I thought Kaylee was a target. To have that many injuries, to beat her in the head and face so badly that those injuries alone, Steve, her father Steve, said would have killed her. Her nose was broken. I just cannot imagine. Now, I'm going to let you know, there are other things that are going to come out that was also done in that bedroom. Steve would not elaborate on that right now. He said he's going to leave that for it to come out in court. But there was more to that than what we just heard. And I have a feeling of what it is. I think that the knife was used in certain spots where it wasn't on anybody else. It's horrible. It's disgusting. It's gruesome. But I am getting that she was injured other places, that the others were not. Okay? I'll just leave that with you. So now we're going to, I got to move my phone here. We're going to jump ahead to, and you also just heard that before everybody went to bed, that Dylan and Bethany and Madison were all in Kaylee's bedroom, all getting together. They were thinking about going back out, maybe getting some more food. That was why Dylan made the phone call to the Uber driver. Apparently, everybody in that house used this Uber driver and wanted to know if he was still out driving about because they were going to go back to the grub truck and get more food, right? So that explains why Dylan called the Uber driver. Okay, so let's go to here. Like I said, I will link this, you guys, um, in the description so you guys can watch it, but I'm just going to highlight certain parts. Here's another one.
Some people who worked in the classroom with Bryan Kohberger reported back to Steve Gonsalves that Bryan took the day off after the murders.
Did you hear that? Bryan he was supposed to work that Monday. Okay, so the red drums happened very early in the morning, around 4 a.m. Sunday morning. We then see him come back to the area around 9:30. And then we seen the picture at 10:30, right? Some have said that they believe that he was listening to a scanner and didn't hear anything going on at that residence. So that's why he felt, I'm going to go by and just check it out, right? But he also took the Monday off.
So the murders happen on a Saturday to Sunday morning. And then you see the selfie at 10 a.m., Bryan Kohberger standing in a shower. And it's the Monday that he apparently called in sick or took the day off from working in the classroom. It's another detail we never knew. And then another, this one hurts. It seems to be a weird trend. Sick people go after crime victims. We've seen it. We've seen it with Shanann Watts' family. They've been tormented for years. She was murdered. Pregnant Shanann Watts was murdered by her husband, Chris Watts. Their two little girls were murdered by dad, stuffed in oil.
Okay, I'm going to wait to let Steve say that part. Okay, so let's jump to this. Okay, we're going to jump to here. I want you guys to listen to this.
Maddie first, and then Kaylee. Kaylee woke up. Kaylee showed.
Hang on, let's back
the
up.
room. You know, if it changed, things like that. So, yeah, we learned that they went for Maddie first, and then Kaylee. Kaylee woke up. Kaylee showed signs of fighting, and or a fight. I don't know really what somebody waking up with somebody stabbing you, how much fighting you can really do. But then this monster struck her multiple times, and those were injuries that I was told that only she had in that room. I don't know about the other people downstairs, but that was one of those details where we kept to ourselves because people would come forward and say, "Oh, I know exactly what happened that night." We be like, "So describe what happened to Kaylee," and they couldn't do it. So that was something that helped.
Okay, so there's something else. Like other people were saying, "Oh, I know what happened," blah blah blah. So Steve would say to them, "Okay, well, what happened to Kaylee?" Because this information until now wasn't out. Okay, I don't believe it's out in the documents yet, but it's coming. They give the victims' family members a heads up of what's coming out. So this is going to be coming out in the documents. Like as we're seeing that there's a lot of documents that are being released. Now, Yes, Rose. 23 times of him being around that area. So he just described it there that Kaylee had more and different wounds than everybody else. Okay, let's jump to this one now. Okay, let's jump here. Pay attention to these clips that I'm playing for you guys. You guys.
I think you mentioned some of the details that that the coroner. I had a conversation with the coroner early in the case, and she shared with us that Xana had.
Listen to this part when he starts talking about the coroner. Listen to what he doesn't say, because Ashley's trying to probe for more information and he says something. Okay? So if you think it's horrific what we've heard already, wait till you hear what he says.
Had some very severe defensive wounds. Like Xana had fought very, very aggressively with this killer. And I think that the coroner may have shared something with you about some of the injuries that Kaylee had, right?
Yeah, she did. And she was struck in the face. Her nose was broken. There was multiple hits from what I've been told, and I'm trying to be careful with my words. But the blows that he sustained, delivered to her, would have killed her.
Really?
Did you hear that, you guys? The blows that he did on Kaylee were enough to take her life. He didn't even have to use the knife. Let's continue.
Really?
Yeah.
If the knife wounds hadn't, the blows would have?
Yeah.
Was there any other detail that the coroner shared?
Yeah, there's definitely other details, but I'm going to let them have the opportunity to release that information, because I don't want to overstep them. But it sounds like it's about to come out, so I'm looking.
Did you hear that? It's about to come out. There's more that's going to come out. He just said, I don't want to overstep. He gave us some information about Kaylee's injuries. And just the look on his face when he said, yeah, there's more. There's more. Right? Okay, so let's jump. Okay, here is the boom. And I think Steve, I don't know if he meant to give this away. I don't know if he meant to give it away or if this is going to be coming out. But to me, this is huge. Because when you watch this whole interview, you were going to hear Steve say, at first I wasn't convinced that they had the right guy. I wanted to see everything. I wanted all the information that I was asking for because I'm not convinced you guys got the right guy. Like, he really questioned whether the prosecution had the right guy until this. You ready? Let's go.
Party, continue cleaning up, continue making sure that there's not a trace left.
Well, I hope and I suspect that the searches that he did before the 911 call will do him in. The activities that he did before anyone knew what happened, those will be the final nail in this case.
Well, for a criminology PhD,
did you hear that? The searches that Bryan Kohberger did just before the murders and just after the murders are going to be the nail in his coffin. So, what does that mean? To me, in my opinion, he searched about either people in that house or that house before the red drums, and then he searched for news after, before it even came out. What do you think? What do you guys think? And K. Mitch said, what did he use for the blows? Remember, there was something that came out in one of the documents that we read last week where Dylan said that she thought she seen him carrying something in his hand. We don't know. but I'm sure it's going to come out. But did you hear what Steve just said? The nail in Bryan's coffin is going to be the searches that he did just before the red drums and then after the red drums. I believed he was searching Google and everything to see, okay, come on, haven't they found the body? What the hell's going, how come they haven't been found yet? How come they haven't been found yet? You know what I mean? That's what's going to be the nail in his coffin from what Steve just said. If none of the other evidence you believe, you're going to have to believe that. Hello, Whitney, and welcome. Whitney says, I always believed it was Kaylee, not Madison, he went after. Maybe his last chance since she was back only for the weekend. I said this 2 years ago. He followed social media and saw she was coming back, yeah. Not only that, you guys, I think I did find a connection where he could have first met Kaylee was at the Coug in Washington, which is the bar. Like, you know how every university has an outside bar that all the students go to. Well, for Washington State University, all the students would go to the Coug. Well, guess where Kaylee celebrated her birthday in July? At the Coug. And it said that Bryan Kohberger was in Washington at that time. Anyway, and there is proof of that because Kaylee wrote on the wall. Everybody writes on the wall there. Kaylee wrote, 21, yay, whatever, Kaylee Gonzalez. Happy birthday, 21st birthday, was written on the wall at the Coug. That's the bar that all the students go to from Washington State. That's where I think he might have first met her. And I said the same thing, like this was his last chance to get her because after this weekend, she wouldn't be back. Okay. So we just listened to that. Okay, so let's jump up to here now. Okay, let's jump to here. Let's just listen to what he has to say here about how Bryan Kohberger, how he feels Bryan Kohberger got out.
Get back to an apartment, and if it's Kohberger's apartment, all without leaving a forensic trail that was, a beacon of blinking lights, because that didn't exist. And I keep wondering what did that killer do to hide those tracks so well?
It's what if I said the killer actually wrote what he would do?
Did you guys hear what he just said? What if I told you the person who did this actually wrote what he was going to do? Okay, so let's stop there for a minute and we're going to go back to this. Oops. Okay, so it's not there. Hang on. Okay, hang on a second, you guys. I'm going to bring it up right here. Okay. Before we hear the final thing that I find is scarier than hell, I want to bring this up. I highlighted a couple things. Steve just said, what if I told you he wrote about what he would do? Right? Oh, Jack, no problem, hon. No problem whatsoever. No problem. Don't you worry. Okay. So I highlighted a few things. This is his crime scene scenario. This is his final, for his final exam in 5/5/2020. So May 5th, 2020. He wrote this. The theory of transfer states that we bring something with us to the crime scene and take something away, thus skewing the crime scene from the original state by contamination. And this is a paper that he wrote for his final, and this is what Steve Goncalves is talking about. Okay, I've highlighted. I'm going to scroll through this, so if you guys do want to read it all through, his paper. It's lengthy, so I'm not going to read through it all, but I did highlight some things in it. Equipment I will have on hand. Gloves to protect the scene from contamination. This will enable that I avoid leaving in my latent fingerprints. Protective clothing, boot covers, eyewear, fiber-free overalls, face masks, hairnets, gowns, anything that will prevent me from contaminating the scene with these things I bring in with me. Yes, that questionnaire too that he also did on Reddit, apparently somebody did reach out to Bryan and he felt creeped out by Bryan. He thought at first he was being set up by cops and whatever. But he ended up talking to Bryan and then not answering Bryan back because Bryan started asking really freaky questions. You can see all that in the interview with Ashley. We're going to finish it off in about a couple minutes there. That interview, but you can see it. I will link it in the description once I'm done. And he talks about that guy. Okay. Good morning, Norma. So, protective clothing. He got all this. Boot covers, eyewear, fiber-free overalls, face masks, hair nets, gowns, anything that will prevent me from contaminating the scene with things I bring in with me. Okay? Including gloves up here to protect leaving his latent fingerprints. I must ensure that myself and my fellow crime scene personnel are wearing gloves and other protective equipment as to avoid contaminating the scene with latent fingerprints. A fiber-free boot cover would also be ideal to avoid leaving physical footprints or residue from the boot. Anything that is fiber-free and covers the mouth, hair, and overall body would be helpful in avoiding crime scene contamination, since hair, saliva, skin cells, and other bodily fluids or cells may be added to the scene. Fibers can be left via the theory of exchange and would contaminate the crime scene from its initial state as the offender left it. He did all that stuff, you guys. And I just found it, the rest of this, like you guys can read through it, but I just feel like there's some stuff here that's pretty descriptive of the scene that he left. He's talking about an incident where a woman her life was taken in a mobile home, okay? And her life was taken with a knife. Does she have defense wounds? Are there hesitation marks on her related to the knife, or are there multiple stab wounds? Most of these questions are speculated until absolutely confirmed by the forensic medical examiner, who can use scientific quotations to determine the approximate time of death. This is a maximum that stands even when the scene seems to point to the obvious. Like, so, see, like, I haven't highlighted all of it, you guys, but he brings up the knife so many times. The knife, the knife, the knife. Okay, so you know how they were fighting to keep out the model the model of the house that the prosecution is making, so they can show where rooms are and all that. You know how hard Ann Taylor fought to get that out of evidence? Listen, the crime scene sketch. Though I can assign another officer to sketch it, I have decided to take this task on. He talks about including movable furniture. This is all stuff that Ann Taylor fought. Well, there's no furniture in there. There's no this. There's no that. Extraneous detail, including movable furniture, may cause issues if juror recognized that the items in the house were moved after the fact. Remember how they said, well, they can't use the 3-day imaging because by the time they did it, just before the house was torn down, there was things that were removed and this and that, and it's going to alter the scene, and it's not the same as it was when the red rooms happened. It's all in here, you guys. He talks about it right here. The living room should be sketched out with the deceased woman being drawn in proportion to the knife. Okay, he's talking about this case what he would do on this case. This is a woman who was killed in a mobile home. She had children and everything. Though it appears obvious that the knife was used in this crime, we do not know for sure and should make sure to document everything and look for less apparent evidence. We now know that there was something else that was used to beat on Kaylee with too, right? Unless he just used his fist. Remember, he was a boxer. Staging is common. For example, the offender may have taken items. Remember I said in my first read on December 6th or December 9th, he took something from one of them? It's in his thing. The offender may have taken items from the house to make it look like a burglary. He did take something. The official crime preliminary report should include the accurate sketch, but now they're fighting to keep it out. The scale of the sketch should be included, or the words not drawn to scale. It's funny that this is just the exact things that Ann Taylor is fighting about, right? Look at, I'm choosing to draw it to scale, where 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. The computer-aided design program, CAD, which uses laser lights and takes up to 25,000 measurements per second in 3 days, may be utilized if available. It's funny how this was all done. And he knew about this stuff since 2020, that this stuff was available. I would request the CAD if available. It gives the best portrayal of the serious crime. And it's funny how he talks about CSI and all these things that normal people would not know about, right? As I move from one end to the other, I'll make sure that I shine my flashlight ahead of myself to ensure that I do not damage or carry away smaller pieces of physical evidence. Include wood chip, hairs, paint flakes, glass fragments, small fibers. Things such as footprints inside and outside should be prepared to be photographed and videotaped. He left a footprint. The location of this evidence is very important, right? For it may give us the following: identification of the suspect, establishing the suspect's modus operandi, MO, or identifying similar MOs via information added to the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, from the completed crime report, confirming alibis or exposing lies, disproving the alibi. Funny, eh? Real funny that this is in his final. Connecting suspects to the crime or eliminating suspects. He goes into checking into the husband or boyfriend. Did he know that Kaylee and her boyfriend had just split up? Right? The knife should be examined for latent fingerprints to be logged separately. So should the knife sheath. Same with the coat hanger, the doorknobs around the house, upended furniture, cell phone, and virtually any physical evidence big enough to grab. Crimes of passion are rooted in emotionally and impulsivity. If this is the case, we can likely count on there being latent fingerprints on the doorknob and all over the knife and victim. Evidence such as hair and fibers from clothing must be collected. Fingerprints and footprints are class evidence. Fingerprints should be entered into AFIS. The shirt likely contains not only the blood of the woman, but the blood of a possible offender. I should make sure to swab under her fingernails. They got stuff from under Maddie's fingernails, right? They haven't mentioned anything about under Kaylee's. Kaylee fought back. So did Xana. We haven't heard about that yet. Here again, did the offender take something? I say he did, and I think it's going to come out. Each item I collect, including but not limited to the knife. I'm just highlighting this because he brings up the knife a lot. Again, the knife. If she had a cell phone or computer nearby, did she communicate with anyone? Did this computer indicate a conflict? Did her husband or boyfriend contact her? Did anyone else contact her? We can't assume it was the husband or boyfriend just because there may have been a history of domestic violence or a PFA, despite this being very common. So he was hoping that they were going to pin this on Kaylee's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, because they were split up. Failing to do so will lead to injustice. There can be a very clear link between the victim and the offender, but if this is not accounted for via chain of custody, then it will be inadmissible. Check her phone. Were they fighting? Were they arguing? Look, it's him. It's him. Surveillance footage is circumstantial evidence, but may lead investigators in the right direction and to the apprehension of the suspect. There you go. That's why he changed his license plates. He figured if he did that, I got to do this before I need to change my license plate. So that way I can say, no, look at, I have 2 license plates. And on top of that, he did go on after the red drums, go back on Amazon to try and get another K-Bear knife and sheath. What are you talking about? Here's mine, right? Violent criminal. If we can't gather conclusive information by the end of the investigation, the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, can help. VICAP may be utilized in this case, happens to be unrelated to a if this case happens to be unrelated to a domestic dispute. He knew he wasn't in VICAP. So he knew he had to, that's probably why in the videos Ann Taylor fought to keep him questioning, why do you want my phone number? Why do you want this? Why do you need that? It's just a traffic stop. What's up? He was scared that things were going to be entered into a database about him. Okay? And he says it right here. VICAP may be utilized if this case happens to be unrelated to a domestic dispute. He didn't want any of his information in any system. Right? The FBI's National Incident-Based Report System, NIBRS, will allow the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, UCR, to give summative information of all applicable crimes to help police officers, criminologists, and criminal investigators understand social trends of crime, thus aiding future cases. This right here tells you why he didn't want to give his information when he was on them traffic stops. He didn't want any of his information in the databases. So there you go. This is where he bought the Dickies, right? Anyway, these are some of the search warrants, you guys, for the Dickies and all that stuff. We've gone through all this again. We went through it all, so we're not going to go over it again. Okay? So that is what Steve is referring to there. So let's go back to the interview and see what else Steve has to say. Okay. So where are we? We're at 46. Okay, so let's continue. Let's back up and just refresh what he just said.
So, well,
It's what if I said the killer actually wrote what he would do?
Okay, that's why we just went and looked at Bryan's final paper that he put in for his final for school. And that's what Steve is referring to right now, what we just went over. So let's continue to listen.
because Bryan wrote a paper saying how he would go into a crime scene and not leave any evidence in that crime scene. So I think you just need to read what he wrote. He wrote exactly what he did, and he probably did more. Who knows what he learned in that Reddit post where he interviewed criminals that got caught or got away with different crimes, and I believe he incorporated those into his night of action. So I think he came to that slider, opened it up whatever way he did, left it open, left some things outside out at that slider, part of his kit, part of his plastic bag, whatever it was, went in, did his thing, was covered in a Dickie outfit from neck to toe, had this hood thing on that they also got that coming to his house. Did
you hear that? They also got that coming from his house. Right? Okay, so I'm going to leave the rest of it for you guys to go and watch after this, but I want to jump to here. Listen to this. Do you guys remember the Georgia shooter? Georgia school shooter, I think it was. Listen.
People that, they have a vendetta against judges and judgment and cops. And so there's this, maybe like 95% are here for all the right things. They want to see like an old fashioned movie where it ends right. And then there's this 5% of people that are like, I'm not one of those cool kids that got killed. I'm a loser. I quit everything. I do drugs. I'm addicted. I've got all these problems, and I hate people. And you hear it. I mean, you literally hear that from these people that do these horrible mass murders and school shootings. You literally hear them say that. So I think, and we know for a fact, one of them, that Georgia Gray kid, Georgia, the state where he did the school shooter, his last name was Gray. Colt Gray, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to even say these kids' names. I don't want to give them any platform, but it could be confusing. People always think, well, you're not being clear when you don't give this information out. But
okay, so listen to what he says about this school shooter.
So this guy, he was a BK fan, and he made threats to our family. So,
The Georgia shooter, the school shooter, made threats to your family?
Yes, that's what we were told. He made an open threat
Okay, so that's the last of that I wanted to bring up regarding that. Like I said, I will link that in the description below so you guys can go and check it out. But here's something else that I come across. Right here. Let me see if I can make this bigger for you guys. Okay. So this is from Air News. You guys will know, who's been following this case for a long time, that there was this professor that took a liking to Bryan Kohberger and, took him under her wing. And apparently she doesn't do this with a lot of students, but she's seen something special in Bryan and she wanted to help him succeed. She's written all these books and whatnot. But here it is here. A recognized authority in the psychological study of serial killers, a prolific author at recent count 59 books and a familiar face on True Crime Network and cable shows, where she reliably brings a measure of academic gravitas to the proceeding, the professor has done it all. And as Newsweek first revealed, at the time of Kohberger's arrest, Ramsland was also his teacher. For a graduate class she taught at DeSales, he'd read her seminal works, Inside the Minds of Serial Killers, Why They Kill, and Confessions of a Serial Killer, The Untold Story of Dennis Rader and the BTK Killer. Yet what the prosecution discovered, which has not been previously reported, is that Kohberger's relationship and tutelage with Ramsland did not end when he traveled across the country to enroll in the PhD criminal justice program at Washington State University. He remained her acolyte. Kohberger was allegedly emailing his old professor. Listen to this. Kohberger was allegedly emailing his old professor in the days before the murders occurred and in the days immediately afterwards. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Hello, cat. Let's continue. What was discussed remains for now at least another mystery. Neither the state nor Ramsland has responded to requests for comment. It will come out in the trial because she's been subpoenaed. She's on their list. Nevertheless, Airmail has learned that just after Kohberger's arrest, Ramsland allegedly telephoned his mother to offer her wisdom and guidance to help her former student and his family through the looming ordeal. Her offer to act as the cool-headed broker for the Kohbergers was quickly accepted. The Kohbergers supposedly refused to meet with their son's court-appointed Pennsylvania attorney until Ramsland signed off. So they're going to do exactly what she says to do. Over the 2 years that followed, the professor allegedly stayed in touch with the family as well as with Kohberger himself, offering sources share, practical advice to help navigate the often overwhelming atrocities of a stern criminal justice apparatus. She even reportedly conferred with one of Kohberger's sisters, who is said to be writing an insider's account of their wrenching family drama. In fact, the beleaguered family has asked her to consider accompanying them to the Boise bed and breakfast that Ann Taylor, the head of their son's defense team, has reserved for them during the course of the trial. So, who's paying for that? Because we know the Kohbergers don't have money. Ann Taylor has reserved an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast. She's reserved that for them for the course of the trial. And they've offered Ramsland to come stay with them there. Now, I think I don't know. I don't know. Because Bryan Kohberger idolized her, right? She was his idol. The things that she wrote and how she explained things and helped him and taught him, she was his idol. She contacts the family as soon as he's arrested and has been working with them ever since. She's written all these books on red drums and serial killers. She wants a book deal. Just saying, just my opinion. Don't come at me. From these facts, the prosecution has embroidered a still speculative account of what allegedly led Bryan Kohberger, armed with a 7-inch steel-bladed knife, into the house on King Road, and it goes like this. Kohberger wanted to prove that the pupil was ready to become the teacher. He was determined to demonstrate to the professor, who accordingly to this theory, was the idolized object of his respect and affection, and that he'd learned all her lessons well. And while her journey into hell had been reaching out in letters and interviews to convicted killers, he would charge full speed into the belly of the beast. No passive arm's-length academic posturing for this researcher. Hello, Don. Good morning. But even more, he'd do it and get away with it. I'm not going to say the word. He'd prove how smart he was. He would show how much he'd learned. Okay? So he idolized her, respected her. And the hypothesis continued with the raging, crackling anger that was unleashed. Kohberger would demonstrate to the object of his devotion the sacrifices he was prepared to make to win her comradeship. Yeah. Like John Hinckley, who had tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan to win the heart of actress Jodie Foster, a woman he'd never met, Kohberger was driven by his own twisted erotomania. What? Kohberger, too, would let his demons run free, and in the end, he triumphed. His far vision would take him someplace where his mentor had never dared to journey. And in the proud aftermath of all his struggles, he'd at last be complete. What does Ranslid make of it? She apparently is not talking. She's never responded to any emails. Nevertheless, she might find something in the theory. After all, in another episode in her remarkably accomplished life, she wrote her doctoral dissertation on Kierkegaard. It was that Danish philosopher who conceded that my writing should be considered a monument to Regine Olsen, a woman whom he had a brief youthful relationship. Is it too far stretched to consider that a killer's logic had made a similar heartfelt journey? So that's in this. I will also link this in the description, you guys. So to me, one of the biggest things that I've got out of this, there's actually two, that regarding, even though they've been very vocal on what the injuries now were to Kaylee, Steve said there's a lot more, and I'm going to let them drop that ball in court, right? He's not going to take that from him. And the second thing is when he said the final nail in Bryan Kohberger's coffin is going to be what he Googled just before the red drums and just after the red drums. Just after the red drums, like his searches, right? So was he searching to see if the girls had gone out? Who was going to be in the house? What was he searching before the red drums? And what was he searching after? Was he listening to a scanner like some think? Why isn't there anything going on? Why haven't these bodies been found yet? What the hell? I'm going to go take a look. And he drives by, because we know he went by again at 9:30 in the morning. He goes back to his apartment and he has his shower. And that photo that we all seen of him giving the thumbs up, I got away with this. I just went by there again. There's nobody there. It's not even taped off yet. Then he calls into work the next day sick. I'm not coming to work. I'm sick. The day after the red drums. And then he searches other things. What was he searching? Steve Goncalves just said that's going to be the final nail in his coffin. That's going to be the final proof. How can you search about the red drums if nobody knows about it nobody knows about it yet, but you're searching about it? That's what I think it is. That's my opinion and my opinion only. I think that after the searches that Steve is talking about is he's going to be searching for information regarding those red drums, but they hadn't been discovered yet at the time he was searching them. So that's why I think that's going to be why Steve said that's the final nail in the coffin. And that's what I think is going to be the final proof. Proof that he and he alone did it. Because how can you search for something that happened that hasn't been discovered yet? What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. You guys are being quiet. Rose says the professor didn't even meet him. It was strictly from online teaching. Yeah. I think they had conversations over the phone, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, Rose, but Norma says I need to see that replay. Oh, there's sister. There's sister. I knew she was listening in the background. She's on her way, a 2-hour drive to a doctor's appointment. So, oh, she's at the doctor. Good. I'm glad you made it there safe, sister. Witwit 66, hello and welcome. I think he was after Kay since she was just down for the weekend moving to Texas his last chance. Yes, that's what I said right at the beginning too. So I agree, right? It's also been said, you guys, that when Dylan left her bedroom and ran downstairs to Bethany's room, she's seeing Xana. And this is another thing that came out. Everybody was saying, oh no, Bethany's, Xana's door was closed. They couldn't get in. They had to break down the door. No. I said right at the beginning, no. No, 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 no. Her door was open. She was laying on the floor there. Remember I said what I got from my reads right at the beginning was no. Bryan was upstairs doing what he was doing to Kaylee and Maddie. And I think they had eaten their food because she got that DoorDash at 4, 15 minutes to eat. I think she was bringing her garbage or going into the kitchen for something, and she seen him coming down the stairs and he seen her. She ran to try and get back in her bedroom and he got her. I said that right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, you guys. I said exactly. He came in the back door through the slider. He went up to Kaylee and Maddie. He seen Xana either going to or coming from the kitchen, and she seen him. So he had to take them out. And I said, Kaylee was laying in the door, and everybody, like, I got jumped on. I got jumped on bad. Blah, 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 blah. No, they didn't. They didn't come in that door. They said the front door was open. No, they didn't. And it's all coming out now. And I said, well, I'm sticking to what I'm being shown. And I'm being shown from my ancestors, from my reads, what happened. And I stuck to it, and I'm glad I did. I didn't bend. And this is why I never change what my ancestors show me. Because they're seeing things that we didn't see. We weren't there. They're up in heaven. They're watching down on everything. They know what happened. So it's going to be interesting to see if I get any. I won't. Nobody will apologize. But everything that I said right at the beginning. Like there's other people claiming, oh, I said that. No, you didn't. You said they came in the front door. Now you've changed your story because now the evidence is showing that he came in through the slider. Like there's some pretty big channels out there that are claiming to have said that he came in the slider, and no, that's not what you initially said. I have said it right from the beginning. And there's one certain creator that claims to be the best and nobody else knows as much as he does and all this crap, told me I didn't know what I was talking about. I was full of BS. He didn't come in the slider. He came in the front door, and now that guy has changed his total story. And he claims now to be the first one to ever say that they came in that Bryan went in the slider. So it's interesting. I laugh at it, and it's like, okay, dude. Okay, dude. But anyway, so this is going to be an interesting trial. Ann Taylor is not going to get this trial moved. It's staying. We're going to trial in August, you guys. Also, like I said, I will link all this information in the description so you can go and listen to it yourself. And Steve had also said, I'll tell you just another little part. Steve had also said in that interview that the trial is going ahead in August. He's confident it's going ahead because the subpoenas have already been sent out. So, with that being said, unless there's anything you guys want to ask or whatever. Let me see. Did I miss any super chats? No, I didn't. Okay. Is what it is. Okay. So with that, I guess I'm going to wrap it up, you guys. Hopefully you have now a better understanding of what is going on in this case. And like I said, there's still tons more we don't know. So if you had any questions about it now, I don't know. You're living under a rock or something. I don't know. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, and I respect everybody's opinion. But some of the things that even Ann Taylor is doing is basically showing that his goose is cooked. So Jack said, I'd initially assumed DM whispered poor Kaylee, but now I hear, where is Kaylee? Yeah. You're very, very welcome, DK Midnight. You guys, if you have not subscribed, I see a lot of people that come in and watch these videos aren't subscribed. I know a lot of people don't do super chats and everything, but this takes a lot of my time. I put a lot into this. I going through the documents, highlighting, so you guys just get the main parts. So I know a lot of you can't afford to donate. That's cool. But it doesn't cost you anything to hit that subscribe, hit the like, share this out. That costs us nothing, and it helps also. So if you guys could please do that, I would very much appreciate it. And for those who do send in the super chats and everything, I appreciate it. It keeps me going. So thank you so much for those who consistently do that too. Okay, so let me just see. Right? It's horrible. Let me just make sure. Hang on a sec, guys. Let me just make sure here. I got something else written down on my paper here, but I don't know where I got it got it from. Let me just see if it's in this document. Hang on a sec, guys. Yeah, see, here it is here with the Catherine Ramsland. It says he then found his calling, forensic psychology, the new science of exploring the dark caverns lurking in the recesses of criminal minds. And as luck would have it, he also found an unlikely friend and champion to guide him, Catherine Ramsland. And she was also his teacher. So he met her when he was at DeSales. So this was before COVID. He was at DeSales long before COVID ever hit. So that's how, yeah, and it said there, that's where I seen it. It's in that airmail thing that I read, you guys, you can see it. It's right under the picture of the 4 roommates whose lives were taken at the top of this. Oh, it's just before it. Let me see. It's just after it. Yeah, it's just after it. Where it's like she was a friend and champion to guide him. Found an unlikely friend. So they stayed in contact. And as soon as he was arrested, she contacted his family and has been helping them ever since. The family, Ann Taylor's rented a bed and breakfast for Bryan Kohberger's family to stay at during the trial. And they've also invited Catherine Ramsland. Catherine's after another book deal. That's what she's after. You're so welcome, Rose. Jack says Willow Stats will improve for you as this case gets more attention on closer trial date. Yeah, I'm covering it from start to finish. So I'm going to be a busy, busy person because I'll be able to do the reads in the morning because they're 3 hours behind me. If court starts at 9, that's not until noon my time. So I will be covering it every day. So what I'll do is in the morning, I will get reads done for you guys so I can post them on, one or 2 days a week. I will be posting still reads. So those of you who are here just for the reads will still get your reads, and those of you who are here for the court coverage is still going to get the court coverage. And that's why I've separated the two. So now the reads and everything are under the video tab, and all my lives, like this one right here, or my Sunday mini reads that I do for you guys, that's under the live tab also. So that's why I've separated it in preparation for what is coming. Okay, so with that being said, you guys, thank you again, all you guys, for being here. You guys are awesome. And I'll end it like I always do. Please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Always be aware of your surroundings. I love you guys to the moon and back. Until next time, stay safe out there. Bye-bye for now.